Hello, friends. My name is Clark. I am very, very new to YouTube. Making things, not watching things. I've been watching things for quite some time. But anywho, this is my first here upload onto this channel. I will be playing Planet Zoo today. I will likely be playing Planet Zoo in a lot, if not all, of my upcoming videos. But I'm just gonna kind of say my game plan for how this video is gonna go, and you can stay tuned in if you would like to. I would like it very much if you did. But I'm just gonna start here by kind of just letting the game run. I'm going to try and troubleshoot some problems, maybe do some small additions here and there in real time. I will be providing commentary during that time, and then I am going to be looking to, and then I'll probably talk a little bit about my plans for my big major build of the episode, as I call it. This is the first episode, but this zoo is obviously not new. But I will talk a little bit about the build for the day, which, spoiler alert, is going to involve filling this lovely little space right here. And then I will insert a little time-lapse video, which I will still be providing commentary, but it obviously won't be recorded in real time. It'll be recorded after the fact, as I'm kind of just talking you through what I will be building. Be talking about, hopefully, a little bit of build techniques, some considerations that I am making in the habitat or habitats, as the case is today, because there's going to be two of them. And then afterwards, we'll get back to some real-time recorded commentary, letting the game run a little bit more, and then checking in on our new residents and how they're interacting with the guests and each other, and etc. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and hit play. I'm going to omit the tour of the entire zoo today, because that would take a considerable amount of time, but it should be noted that this franchise of mine, this is my technically third zoo. The first zoo was me learning how to play, and as a result, I quickly ran out of money. All the mechanics quit, barriers started to break down, crocodiles started to escape, and that zoo has since been deleted. The second one was still more of a learning curve, but it didn't completely collapse on itself, and this is the third zoo, the one that I deemed was in this man's humble opinion, ready for online content. But the whole idea behind this zoo is that it is going to be sorted, and I never get this word correctly, but I'm going to try and say it anyway, taxonomically? Taxonomally. I don't know. It's sorted by how the tree of life is sorted, i.e., animals that are more closely related to one another are more closely located to one another in the zoo. So this little section is an exception to that. This zoo is in Oslo, Norway. So this is the Norway native section, meaning some animals that are local to the area. But beyond that, it's all going to be sorted by what kind of animal it is, which is why you see this gate here for the mammals section of the zoo. We move straight into the monotremes, the only one in the game being the platypus. We have marsupials over here, which is, if you see these words that are, clearly, have Greek or Latin origins, then you know that is why they are there. That is the family that all marsupials found within this building belong to. It is not the family that these Tasmanian devils outside belong to, but that's why they're outside. And right now, today, we are working on the bear section. It is the, all right, I'm seeing a notification now saying that this sun bear has been in a box for too long, and I'm not sure why he was in a box to begin with. I didn't know he was in a box, but he's out now, he's free. But anyway, this is the bear section. So far, we have but two habitats in the bear section. The sun bear habitat, as you just saw by that one sun bear that was, for some reason, boxed. I don't know. Did the game think that he escaped? Maybe. Who's to say? But then we also have the grizzly bear habitat, which is much smaller than the sun bear habitat. But today, we are going to be working on filling this little area right here. First, we are going to address problems as they come up, because it's kind of whole point of this first little section of the video. But yeah, what I'm going to be doing today is be working on this little area right here. It is going to be home to 2 different kinds of bears. There are, I believe, 8 types of bears in this game. Not all of them are going to be in this zoo because polar bears are just they have like by far the largest space requirement of any animal in this game, and it's a tundra habitat. It's just, I firmly believe that it's going to be more trouble than it's worth. So they are getting omitted, meaning that the ones left are the sun bear, which is right here, grizzly bear. Giant panda will be in this dome. Right now, the dome is empty. I have just built the dome because I was struck with inspiration of incorporating the yin-yang symbol here, and I just went ahead and did it. I will probably be working on, that will probably be the build in the next episode. And then these 2 spaces here are going to be for, I have put down the null barriers, but I haven't actually put down any physical barriers yet, for the let's see remember which one's which. I believe this bigger one here is going to be for the Formosian black bear, and this guy right here is going to be for our sloth bears. With this guy, I mean, the idea right now is that it's going to be for the Himalayan brown bear, but I don't know. I'd be surprised if the habitat ended up both existing in this current shape. So we'll just have to see on that. But yeah, I mean, so far I've been super enjoying this zoo. Really, I guess, just been trying to make it as functional and aesthetically pleasing as possible. That's something that I struggled with in the past. A lot of awkward gaps in past zoos, and there are still some awkward gaps, but they are all at least small enough or big enough that I am comfortable filling them in ways that isn't going to be too crazy. Really, I guess the only small gaps that are not going to be super functional that I've yet to fill is going to be this whole section right here, which will eventually be filled up with some shrubbery. But yeah, I don't know. Yeah. Anybody who would like to see a full tour video, just let me know. I am streaming on Twitch. I often stream whenever I'm working on this zoo. So if you are interested in watching me stream this game live, I know this game can be a bit slow, which is why I'm switching to this form of making content. But if you'd like to watch me play this game live, interact with me a little bit in the chat, and I don't know, just talk about the game or whatever else, then you can follow me on Twitch. My Twitch is CP Cunny. That is CPCUNNI. My profile picture, if you should, need any more indication, is going to be this logo right here. This is the logo that I had custom designed by my lovely sister-in-law for my franchise. So let that be your North Star in guiding you to whether or not you are in the right place. And without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and end this recording, immediately start another one to convert into time-lapse, and I will get started on this here double habitat. And yeah. So whenever I first kind of got started here, then my original plan, as you can see by that big old cluster of rocks that I'm copy and pasting now, was that I was going to make this up like a rock face, like a natural looking wall. And so that's basically what's going on here, is I'm just trying to kind of cobble together something, to follow that general outline of the barrier. I then went back here and I realized that I had some like open spaces back here that were pretty small, and I was looking at some space restraints, so I ended up readjusting the barriers. The barriers weren't always like this, to allow me to kind of utilize this space back here as hard shelter, like type backstage areas for the both bears. And plus, it's also like right next to the staff building, so it was pretty, I guess it was a pretty like obvious choice. So this is really just me, trying to put that together. Now, I will say that I ended up changing my mind about using the dividing wall as rock, just because really the common theme here is that my space was, I'm not going to sit here and say it's not big enough, but it was, I'm going to graciously say, barely big enough. And so, honestly, I'm extremely glad that I opted to put these caves here, because if I didn't, then I probably would have had to rework the path. I know this is my first time posting, but prior to me doing this, then I basically had to rework the path around this area like 3 or 4 times. And that really sucked. I can't lie. Every time that I rework the path, I am dedicating more space to the bears than I initially intended. But yeah, this is this whole section over here. Obviously the section that's being built in right now, and that the section that has already been built in is just for bears. But it all fits into the the higher order of carnivora, which is basically, I'm not going to say all carnivores because it's not really that simple. But it includes several major families, being Ursidae, which is bears, Canidae, dogs, Felidae, cats, and then there's some smaller ones like Mustelidae, which is actually probably one of the next things I'm going to do once I'm finished with the bears, which includes otters as well as badgers, wolverines. Honestly, I was thinking about this last night. I'm probably only going to be including the 2 species of otter as well as the wolverine here, because those are the only ones in the game aside from the European badger, which I already have in the front of the zoo. But yeah, everything like I said in the intro, everything is sorted taxon, sorted by how animals are related, and so basically everything that fits into that carnivora order has to be here. So I was really trying hard to make this space work, and I did end up making it work. Spoiler alert, I know you can't see that quite yet, but this is what I was talking about with I ended up changing my mind on that rock wall. Honestly, I realized that there was a wood wall separating the grizzly bear from where the Formosan black bear is going to be, and so I figured I'd kind of try and keep things consistent there. Plus, it takes up less space. It doesn't really eat into the space, the walkable terrain of the bears, which is important because, not a lot of space. I also went back and added these aquatic style fencing here as sort of like a railing to try to keep the bears in. The bears cannot actually climb these fences, so it's not really necessary as more of an aesthetic choice. But it made a lot of sense. The game has the whole anti-climbing feature on the actual in-game barriers, and so I thought I would kind of go based off of this design, which I have seen in other zoos that I've seen on YouTube. I'm pretty sure that at this particular juncture I was getting up to get something to drink, which is why there's a long pause. But yeah, I will say that this was an extremely tedious process. It's good Lord, having to adjust every single angle, every single depth was a huge pain, and was honestly the reason why I ended up not building the Formosan black bear habitat in this episode. It took a long time, it was very tedious, and I got very tired of doing this thing that I'm doing right here on video. But I will be getting back to the Formosan black bear. Maybe next time, maybe time after that, I don't know. It's my zoo, I make the rules, and I don't know what the rules are yet, but once I make them, I'll be sure and keep y'all posted. I also had to take a quick break to kind of pop into the market and look and see. I had already bought one of my sloth bears, but I went back to buy the other one, and so I really didn't want to try and mess around with corners for this particular style of fence, so I did more or less what I've been doing prior with the grizzly bear habitat, and I just added in some rocks as sort of like a post. I might put some decor on top of said post, maybe, I am not sure, but that's what we're looking at now. And then honestly, from there I went ahead and just added the bears in. I did this basically so that I could kind of build trying to cater to their needs, and I could actually see their needs, mainly with the traversable area, but also their preferred terrain distribution is also a helpful thing to be able to see. Again, space was an issue, so I went ahead and redid that gallery, kind of hugged it in a little bit closer to the main path so that I could, rework the null barriers and ultimately give them a little bit more space. It was not a lot more space, but it was, honestly, in the end, it actually, I'd say, made a pretty noteworthy difference. But, yeah, I don't know. I ended up a little bit uncertain as to how I wanted to do the viewing gallery here. I ended up doing something that looked kind of similar to my black bear habitat. The black bear habitat, I made it, deliberately made the galleries look like they were in caves. I did not do that here. One, I wasn't sure if I had the space for it, and two, I figured, I'd let the natural light come in. I might go back and add some sort of awning over the gallery, or maybe even over the inside of this wall. But for the time being, I went ahead and just added in some, just stuck with that classic vertical wood plank and modern glass combo. I had this idea of using these plaster floors to try to make the floor look a little bit different. Thought it would make it easier to, thought it would help me close some gaps. And honestly, this, not to brag, but I if you're watching this, I have succeeded in wasting your time, because I've spent a considerable amount of time on these floors, and I did not keep them. I ended up just trying to button up the gaps in other ways. I realized that with the incline, it would be more trouble than it was worth to try to actually handle the plaster floor with the incline of the path. And honestly, in future videos, I might be working with my editing skills a little bit more to try to cut out things like that. But you can see that I went ahead and abandoned that idea. I went ahead and added in some walls here. I haven't added anything yet as of the recording of this voiceover, but eventually there's probably going to be either some decorative signs there or some educational content. I'd say the latter is probably more likely. And then I just added this here stone wall. I will be adding a big lettered sign for the sloth bear. It might be on this wall. It might be on the wall of the habitat. I'm not sure yet, but I really wanted to kind of separate. Really the primary aim of that stone wall is to just separate the gallery from just the path of people walking by. But after that, I ended up going back, and ended up redoing these barriers as concrete, just because I have had problems in the past where guests don't really animals will pay attention to everything, but guests, on the other hand, will not. Guests will look through stone if you don't have a specific opaque barrier like a concrete one. So I went ahead and did that just so that the guests wouldn't try to look past it. And then I covered it up with these rocks. But yeah, you also saw me trying to add the tunnel entrance. I couldn't get it to work. I thought, oh, that'll be a neat idea. So another idea that I ended up abandoning there. I have worked with the tunnel entrances before, and the last time that I used it, I didn't have that problem. So I don't know. We'll have to. Hopefully that's not going to be a consistent thing. It kept snapping it to the wrong side of the barrier, which sucks. I thought that was a pretty long wall to just do in any one style. So I went ahead and added kind of another big stone column here. Might have been a mistake just for how much space it cut into the habitat. Cut away from the habitat, but ultimately I don't think that, we're not at critical space levels. I did the same thing with the concrete here, just so they wouldn't be looking through that stone, and then I spared the concrete on the other side because I ended up doing another kind of a viewing gallery. I'm not sure if I'd really call it that. It's more like just a window, but it doesn't have a dedicated space aside from just the path that you're walking by. But yeah, it's just, I don't know, it's me trying to tidy up some of these weird spots. or the construction pieces and the paths don't overlap quite in the most aesthetically pleasing way. And then you've got me here. Honestly, it's funny. You see me like just panning around and like orbiting around a whole bunch while I'm sitting here just looking at things and not doing anything. And I apologize if anybody is prone to motion sickness. But I do be doing that. And at times 6 speed, it's a little bit much. But here's me adding in those walls, and then I just basically duplicated and went back and edited so that I could go and add the actual windows later. But I mean, yeah, I don't know. It was like I said, space was a challenge. It was a challenge that I completely and totally inflicted upon myself. Upon seeing that weird little overlap with the window, I ended up deciding I wanted to do something about it, so I pulled out the aquatic faux rocks, specifically this one that's kind of shaped like a big old brick, and then I just decided that I would go ahead and add a column there to cover up that weird overlap, in addition to kind of, I thought I would expand on the idea, use it a little bit more, and I ended up kind of framing a lot of the walls like that. I haven't framed all of the walls like that, and I'm not sure if I will end up doing that. I did it for both the galleries. I haven't done it for any of the outside wooden walls. But, y'all take a look at these here walls and tell me if you think it's an idea that's worth translating over. It shouldn't take too long. I'll cover in the next episode if I get anybody saying, yes, that looks fantastic, do that more. But for the time being, I really just... at first I did it to incorporate that column, and then I was like, well, for consistency, I'll put it over the other gallery. So we'll have to see if that's an idea that's worth translating over to all of the wooden walls. There's a wooden wall on the far side of the grizzly habitat, but that one is actually like second. It's serves two purposes as also a building. I think this is when I went up to go to the bathroom, but I tried to leave a nice view. But yeah, that was the barriers. Honestly, the barriers I find are the most, trying thing to build in this game when it comes to just your patience. There's a lot of repetition here. But then I used one of these little rocky enclaves to place down my water pipe. I hit play to make sure the accessibility updated, and then I, got a bunch of the notifications about the staff zone not being set up. So I went ahead and added some more staff because the staff looked like they were starting to get stretched pretty thin for how big the work zone was becoming. And then I added them in the habitat to said work zone. Got my nice little feeding platform here that I've got covered up with a faux rock so you don't see that big ugly metal tray. The corner was peeking out, but I don't know, I kind of used it to actually be able to select it, so it's not easy to see anyway. And now I'm just painting the terrain brush for our lovely bears to make sure they're nice and comfortable, checking the Zoopedia to check about what kind of biome they like to live in. And yeah, I always like to start with trees, just when it comes to filling these habitats and stuff, because it's like the trees are the things that are going to be taking up the most space. They take up the most space on the ground, barring maybe some enrichment or water fixture like the one I just added there. And then they also kind of, they're trees. We all know how trees work. They're there's a trunk at the base, but it's like there's leaves and branches and stuff up higher. So I wanted to I want to try and do that to kind of establish what it's going to look like from the air and make sure that, I'm not confined to putting trees too close together where they get all jumbled and they don't look right. But now I'm just kind of going back and adding in some smaller foliage. I ended up, just kind of adding them around the perimeter. This is usually how I handle things. Is usually I kind of establish some walkways, and then I kind of break up the walkways with big clusters of foliage. But I'm also going through here and adding trying to meet their enrichment requirements, always trying to put the enrichment in a place where it's easily viewable from the gallery. You're welcome, guests of Oslo Sanctuary. And then I was struggling for how I was going to approach their climbing requirement. I was thinking, I don't know, I'm not particularly good at building climbing frames, and so what I ended up doing was I was like, oh, I'll put it right here next to the guests so they can see it, you know, whenever they're climbing up there and resting on that elevated platform. So I did just that. I placed one of these nice little 4x4 platforms, added some supports and a ramp to get up there, even though they can just climb up the supports, and then realized that still wasn't enough, so I ended up, you know, adding a second platform, again with supports, and a nice little log to connect the two to allow the bear. Well, actually, no, sorry, I didn't use log. Oh, no, I did use a log for this one. But yeah, just to kind of meet their climbing requirements. Still was not met, by the way. So I ended up tending to a couple dead animal notifications. And then I went ahead and added another platform on the backside. Yeah, I don't know, it's kind of close to the top of that fence. I might need to heighten that fence a little bit, or maybe just in that part. I don't know. But that got us to where we needed to be in terms of climbing, and I believe the rest of this, I'm actually not sure how much there is left, but I believe the rest of this was just spent adding in foliage to make it look a little bit nicer. Like I said, I had like clusters of foliage. I love to use these these really big but like sometimes traversable plants. Really enjoy, you know, these Salt Lord, I think is what that one was. Love accenting using lily pads. Try not to go overboard on them though. You know, bracken, scaevola bushes. Scaevola bushes are not, they're tropical, but that's just an example of, you know, something that just looks nice. It looks like general greenery. It doesn't look like it's something that it's hard to overdo. As well as these lady ferns here and the Lord and Lady's plants. Got an accent with some of those. But yeah, the habitat was so small that I didn't, a lot of times, like if habitats are big enough, I end up putting a bunch of different kinds of plants. But here, it was so small that it was like I only had one little, like, most plants, I only had one little, like, cluster of. Like those dog rose bushes right there, oxeye daisies, meadow buttercups, all that stuff is like, there's multiple plants, but they're all kind of clustered together. Then I realized that I hadn't met their enrichment requirement. I tried to put that drum toy up there, but it ended up messing with their climbing requirement, so I ended up deleting it and just putting a fire hose ball. Whew, and here we are, all done. I will admit, this idea was an exercise in hubris to try to use this space to fill the two habitats that I so desired it to fill, to consist of, whatever. But yeah, the sloth bears are in. I have yet to add any of the peripheral details, i.e. education, any like guest facilities that might be nearby. Excuse me, any any like foliage and stuff that's actually outside of the habitat and just meant for decor. I originally planned to make this episode include both of these habitats because I thought they were right next to each other. Oh, you know, it'd be have them done lickety split. I was wrong. That took a while. I don't know. I don't know. I'd have to check the tape to see how long it took, but I'm willing to bet hour and a half, 2 hours. But anyway, here are our sloth bears. We are, as I implied moments ago, oh yeah, I had a couple animals die while I was building. But as I was saying earlier, it's pretty close call with the space, and when I say pretty close call, I mean that they are currently in the yellow for navigable land area. That problem might be exacerbated when they have cubs, but for the time being, it is passable. I mean, it's, you know, their space requirement is still at 93%, so it's nothing that I'm sweating over right now. But we will definitely have to see how that pans out once there are cubs in this habitat. But honestly, though, all in all, I'm pretty pleased with how it turned out. I didn't have a lot of space to do anything crazy, but we'll, you know, but honestly, though, I think it gets the job done. We've got some climbing platforms that are built into the perimeter of the area. You know, we've got a cave that ended up being smaller than I thought it would be, but you know, the hard shelter requirement should be, yeah, the hard shelter requirement is satisfied. We've got all of our enrichment, we've got all of our you know, our coverage is well satisfied. All the plants here are appropriate for their habitat. Yeah, really, the only concern is the space. Well, the only concern is this, like, the only real concern with the animals' welfare is the space. However, I did notice, ooh, I got something. What's this? Ooh, yes, please. Claim them rewards. What do I got? Oh, wow, okay, that's not a lot. But yeah, I did notice that the female sloth bear, not that one. Female sloth bear, where is she? I do not see her. Hello? Where is your miss? Oh, they're both right there. The female sloth bear, somebody just, the zoo that I bought them from just named them this thing. I'm not a big fan of when people do this, where it's like they name it to help, like, sort the bears or, you know, whatever animal it is, so they, like, know what they're gonna do with it. You know, a lot of times people will just name the animals, like, what their genetic stats are. But yeah, this one's named I don't even know how to say that, but basically they just labeled it like they were gonna put it up for auction, which of course they did, and I bought it. So if anybody is, you know, has an interesting name for this here female sloth bear, then feel free to drop it down in the comments below, and I might just select it, because this is not going to be her name forever. I hate it. But as for the rest of the habitat, though, I mean, I think it turned out pretty well. I spent an insane amount of time just working on the barriers, because I had been meaning to add these railings on the barriers for a while now, just so that, I mean, you know, bears can climb. They can't climb these construction pieces if I tell the game that they can't, but you know, for the sake of realism, I really wanted to add these, and I did. I might add more over here. I might add, well, actually, I think that's the only spot that I was really thinking about adding more. I probably will, actually, because I added them over here, but I didn't really feel like contending with that right now. I'll also need to add some on the other side here for the Formosan black bear habitat. But yeah, that building the barrier took way longer than I thought it would, and I had some trouble making a decision on exactly how I wanted it to look. I didn't want it to just be, you know, all the way across, like these windows and stuff, so I tried to kind of mix it up a little bit. I think it turned out okay. It'll definitely look a little bit better once we have some education screens in there, add some decor, some bins to really just kind of fill it out, make it look a little bit less bare. Bare, because, you know, there are bears in here. But yeah, let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. Yeah, I don't know. This is my first video, so forgive me. I'm a little bit, you know, a little bit out of I don't have a lot of practice in terms of how to close these things out. But yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and call it there. Thank you guys so much for joining me, and I hope to see you next time. Bye.